Greetings and felicitations, or greetings and salutations, and lots of other pleasantries. Welcome to Enchantment of Eternity. I'm here to talk about another weekend review, talk about the shows that I happen to be watching this week. So this week I'm going to cover the last two episodes of The Mandalorian because I haven't covered those two episodes. I'm also going to cover the latest episode of Rick and Morty, latest episode of His Dark Materials, and the latest episode of Vikings, which I just finished watching just now. All right, so yeah, I haven't. If you want me to cover the season finale of Watchmen, I did that on its own separate video, its own separate thing that's already up on my channel. I did immediately after that episode aired. So if you want my thoughts on that, you can watch that video. So anyway, yeah, I want to let's start with The Mandalorian. So this definitely, everyone seems to agree that the last two episodes saw an uptake in quality. However, with episode 6, which I'll start there because a lot of people were saying, oh, this episode's amazing, it's awesome, it's way better than the last two episodes. If you don't remember, episode 6 was the one where Bill Burr, a comedian, was playing the main villain. And there was a bunch of, it was basically just a who's who. I don't know. They just introduced a whole bunch of characters from the Mandalorian's past, and well, not a bunch. Like, he never met Bill Burr before, but he met Osha from Game of Thrones. But anyway, you knew this shady dude who was like he was the hotel clerk in Memento, who kept like charging Lenny more money even though he couldn't, because he couldn't remember, so he charged him extra rooms. Anyway, he was a shady fellow who was running this organization. He sent Mandalorian on a job and to rescue this guy from an alliance. What are they called? The alliance, or the whatever they're called, from their prison. And he goes along with it, and surprise, surprise, all the people on board are being dickheads to him the whole entire time, and they try to betray him, which like, I will agree that this episode was more interesting than the previous one with the kid bounty hunter. Like, that was kind of a waste of time. And I suppose it's even better than the one they were rescuing a village from bandits, because that's a very stereotypical storyline. But I didn't think it was that great, to be perfectly honest. I didn't think it was all that good. I think, first of all, I don't buy Bill Burr. I mean, I bought him in Breaking Bad because he was just playing kind of a sleazy guy working for Saul Goodman, which I totally buy. But here he's like this badass bounty hunter villain. Sorry. I'm sorry, but I just can't see it. And also the main issue I had with it, because it was so obvious from the beginning, they're all being dickheads to the Mandalorian. They're like fucking with Baby Yoda, and it's so obvious. It was so telegraphed that they were going to turn on them. Like, when they turn on him, I'm like, he's so stupid for not seeing this coming. It's just, I don't know. That bothered me. And plus, like, they throw all these characters at us that we've never seen before in this show that's just fairly new. It's only a 6th episode in the entire show. And they expect us to give a shit about them. Like, when they reveal that the guy they're rescuing is that Osha's brother, who we just met in this episode like 2 minutes ago. And they're like, oh no, what's the big reveal? I'm like, honestly, they were building this up like the guy who they're rescuing was going to be a known character. So I was honestly expecting it to be someone we know from the Star Trek franchise. But it turns out it's the brother of the girl we just met 2 minutes ago. Who cares? I don't care. I was like, oh no, it's that guy, not that guy who I barely vaguely have an idea who it is. Javern says it's great that Boston is now canon in the Star Wars universe. I mean, yeah. I mean, I don't know. Some people are making because Bill Burr has a Boston accent, but we've had recognizable accents, particularly the prequels. I don't even know what Watto was. Some people say Jewish, and then of course those Trade Federation dudes were Chinese, so they're already introducing known accents. So Boston is not really much of a stretch for me. But anyway, yeah, fucking Bill Burr. Jerome says, yeah, absolutely. But anyway, yeah, so they revealed that the big reveal, shocking reveal, is some dude we vaguely have an idea of who it is. Why do I care? Answer is, I don't. I mean, I did think it was kind of cool how the Mandalorian got the better of them. I mean, that of course was cool seeing that, especially as he put the tracer why is the dude? I don't get this. That the shady hotel clerk from Memento. Why was he trying to betray the Mandalorian all along? I mean, if they had this working relationship for years that benefited them, and they both earned a lot of money off of, why all of a sudden is he? Because it's not like he's turning the Mandalorian in for a payday. I mean, at least that might make more sense, but he's just trying to kill him. So I don't get it. It doesn't. I don't know. I don't like when shady outlaw types are being bad just for the sake of being bad, just to show that they're evil. I mean, you have to have some sort of motivation to make sense for the characters, not because just they're evil. So I don't know. I don't think this is a terrible episode. There's some things I liked about it. Like, I didn't realize it was Clancy Brown playing that big dude until I read the credits. But yeah, they were just so cliche. They were just so one beat. I'm back on board with my thing that The Mandalorian seems like a live action cartoon, which, to be frank, I'm not really okay with. And I was watching Screen Junkies. I watch Screen Junkies a lot. And I don't know if you're familiar with that channel. And I usually like Dan Murrell and Spencer. They do the honest trailers, but they went off on a couple of rants, which I'm sorry, I have to describe as idiotic rants about why people are complaining about The Mandalorian being episodic. And they went off on these stupid, misguided rants. It's a TV show. Like, TV equals episodic. And then someone else brought up Xena. It's like, oh, you think this is, we're bad having episodics? We had Xena. And they were saying it as if comparing the show to Xena Warrior Princess is a good thing. But I'm like, that's my whole fucking point. There's a reason why the modern age of television, which is mainly serialized, is called the golden age of television, because it's better than shows like Xena and bullshit. And Spencer's being an asshole, being like, I'm talking down to your young types, but I'm older than you, Spencer. So, and I remember 90s television's episodic television better than you do, enough to know that the modern serialized television is way better. So if you're going to go back to a crappy era of television instead of embracing a new era of television, then yeah, people are going to fucking complain. So, god damn it, they piss me off. But anyway, sorry, I just had to vent on that one. But anyway, let me get into the next episode of The Mandalorian. And that is, this is actually good. I really like the newest episode that just aired, because they are finally getting back to the main story. I still maintain, though, that the show would have been better if they never left the story. Instead of doing these adventures where they go off and meet people. Yeah, no, that's Clancy Brown. I didn't know that until I read the credits. I read it on IMDb, I think. But anyway, you know what they say, it's better to burn out than to fade away. Deep cut Highlander reference for Clancy Brown. Anyway, so this newest episode I did really enjoy. I just think they should have been doing this all along. I think there's a way they could have tied this in throughout, instead of it feeling like they had this was the main focus of the first 3 episodes, even though the second episode was kind of filler. And they just left it, and now they're coming back to it. I think they should have just stuck with it. I'm sorry. They could have developed Gus Fring as the main villain this whole time, instead of just throwing him in to the second to last episode in the season at the very end of the episode. I think it would have made things more interesting. There's a lot I'm sure they could have explored. But, as they say, better late than never. At least they got around to finally getting back to the main storyline. And I did really enjoy this episode. And I did like that they brought back that character from, the shock trooper. Not as trooper, but the shock. Oh, well, whoever she is. The former used to be part of the rebellion. They brought her back. And that was cool. I still don't think it justifies having that episode where they're saving the villagers, but it's still cool to bring known characters back. And I like their interactions. But it was obvious when they introduced her that they were introducing a reoccurring character. That was a bit contrived. But whatever. It was still... and again, it was kind of obvious that... Carl Weathers was betraying them, but I think the Mandalorian knew that. But he knew that, as he said, they have to do something. They need to confront this one way or another. They can't just keep running because they will just be followed and chased the whole entire time. So in the chat, Jerome says, you can still have episodic TV like The Leftovers has very episodic episodes focused on the character, but still progresses the story characters organically. Absolutely. I mean, I would say that shows like The Leftovers, and there's other shows that do this, like maybe The Watchmen, and I'm still stuck on Lindelof, but even like Better Call Saul, Breaking Bad, will have episodes that could be deemed as episodic, but the show is still overall serialized, like the Leftovers. Even The Expanse, I would argue, they have time for episodes that stand on their own. But it's still a part of a greater serialized storytelling. And The Mandalorian could have done that, but it didn't. It's completely just ignored the through storyline throughout most of the season. But anyway, well, thank you, Jerome. You also disagree with Screen Junkies. Yeah, I was tempted to leave an angry comment, but I just couldn't bother. So I just ranted on my own channel about it. But anyway, so yeah. So I do think this is a return to form for Mandalorian. I don't think it completely saves the entire show, but it's not going to make me think the show sucks. I'm going to have a higher opinion. That was a very effective cliffhanger. The shootout was amazing. And again, having Carl Weathers change his mind because Baby Yoda saved his life was good character development. I liked it. I think it was the progression of the episode, I think, really worked. Really enjoyed it. So Valentine Voss says, I saw Rise of Skywalker yesterday. Honestly, it's a mess, and a lot of the lines and acting are bad. That's what I hear, but I haven't seen it yet. I'm going to see it tonight because I was working last night, but I have tonight also. I'm going to see it tonight, and I'll come back and do another live stream after I've seen it, so don't spoil me yet. I haven't seen it yet. But anyway, let me move on to the next show, which is Rick and Morty. And this might be my favorite episode of the season. I think this is a classic Rick and Morty episode. And again, I'm one of those people who didn't really like season 3 all that much. I think season 4 is turning out to be a lot better than season 3 was. And I gotta tell you, it's the episode I laughed the most at, particularly the scenes with the snakes. And it's the one where Morty gets bitten by this space snake and he, kills it or something, and it was supposed to save its race that has a whole world of snake people. And no, I wouldn't even know if I call them people, because they're still snakes. They go around going and they don't actually talk like English or something, but their society is shaped like modern society. So they had these long sequences and I love that they didn't even have subtitles. They just had long sequences of because you could figure out what was going on just from the context and the visuals, and had these long sequences of the snakes just playing out like a modern day, typical alien abduction film. They had the snake Pentagon, and they had the snake Lincoln. I know Snake Lincoln comes later. And the snakes just go around going and then they write it says it's just a bunch of S's. Oh my god, I was laughing my ass off at that. And then of course, because Morty tried to get a snake from Earth to replace the one he killed, but of course they treat it as an alien snake because it's from a different world. So they'll have like the CIA or something studying the alien snake, and they have his own enclosure. Oh my god, I thought that was so hilarious. And then they got ridiculous with it later with Snake 80. And then of course the whole point of it was to kind of make fun of the Terminator, and they were like, I think specifically it was making fun of the Terminator sequels and just how convoluted and ridiculous they become because the stories started out simple. Like you could say that's the first Terminator, but then as they went, it just got more and more ridiculous and convoluted to the point where it's just off the walls convoluted. And I think that was saying by that time it had progressed to all the sequels, the Dark Fate and Genesis and what have you. And so I thought it was very funny commentary in the episode. So I think this might be my favorite episode in a while. I think this is top tier for me. But I will say the side plot with Jerry, I did not care for. Like last week's side plot with the talking cat, I liked. This week, I don't really like these side plot with Jerry's overall. Like in this one was kind of pointless. This is like a one beat joke. Is like, oh, don't hang up the Christmas lights without killing yourself. And so he has to. And so Rick injects him with these things, so it would be bouncing. He won't kill himself, but he ends up killing himself in another way. I don't know. I mean, it didn't totally suck, but I don't think it was the best thing ever. Anyway, I'll see what's going on in the chat. Jerome says, I'm seeing it in a few hours. Since I love The Last Jedi, I'm afraid they're going to retcon the whole movie because J.J. Abrams. I haven't seen it yet, but I have heard from a lot of critics that basically, yeah. And that's what I was afraid of, too, because I also liked The Last Jedi. And I didn't care for The Force Awakens. I mean, The Force Awakens was okay. I didn't hate it, but I thought Last Jedi was better. And from what I hear, this is just ignoring The Last Jedi for the most part, other than like maybe a few things, but going back to The Force Awakens. So, I don't know. I want to go in with an open mind, but from what I hear, and plus a lot of people call it fan service, the movie, and that is not a good omen because that is not what I liked about The Force Awakens. There was too much fan service, and the sounds from what I hear, this movie is just as bad, so if not worse. So I don't know. I'm still going to try to go in with an open mind though. Jerron says, I was well prepared when it cut to Snake World that I was going to stay on Snake World for the rest of the episode, and I would have accepted it. I don't know. I think that would have been a bit too much. I think what they did in the episode was actually the perfect amount of Snake World. Some people might think it went on for a bit too long, but I would say I love the fact that it went on that long. But I think staying the rest of the episode would have been too much. But they did cut back to it later, like they had the whole they invented time travel, so they traveled back to the Snake Civil War and killed and saved. Oh no, and it was Snake Lincoln, and they saved his life, and they traveled back to Snake Nazi and tried to kill Snake Hitler, but he had the other future snakes come. I don't know. That's when it started getting convoluted, but it was absolutely hilarious. Now, they had these like time travel cop things, and I don't know what the hell they were, but they went to they traveled back to the BC to stop the snakes from ever getting technology so they could stop the whole mess. And the way they were talking, it was obvious like they were having like African American actors, and I don't know. To me, one of them sounded like a little bit like Samuel L. Jackson. So I was really expecting hey, I'm sick of these motherfucking snakes joke. I was really expecting it, and I think maybe it's in good taste that they didn't actually do one, but I was so ready for one. It would have been a bit too obvious and cliche anyway. But anyway, Jordan also says, I still think my favorite of the season was the heist episode. I gotta disagree with season 3. That's my favorite season. I mean, I've met a lot of people in real life who love season 3, but I recently watched this video on YouTube that said it was the worst season of the show, and I think they make a really good case for it. And plus, it was my personal least favorite. Yeah, I don't know. It just got a bit too convoluted to me. Now, as far as the heist episode goes, I liked it, but as I covered in my channel previous, I know like it was meant to be convoluted. That was the whole point, because it was making fun of how heist movies have become too convoluted. But it's still like this movie did the same thing with the Terminator stuff, but I think it worked better. I honestly do. And I liked so I wouldn't say that was my favorite. I still liked it, but I wouldn't say it's my favorite of the season. I think there's a lot of episodes I preferred. Pretty much every episode except for one. I can't remember. I think it was episode 2, which I didn't care for that much. But the dragon one I also liked a lot. But anyway, okay. So let me move on to his Dark Materials. And I don't know. This is the penultimate episode of the season, and this show has yet to grab me, so I'm convinced it never will. Unless they completely like change directions from season 2 and like do something that blows me away. It's good. I'm still interested in it. Like, I think this episode was pretty exciting with the whole thing with the bears and York reclaiming his kingdom. Like, that was pretty exciting, and how Lyra tricked the evil bear and said that she would be his demon. Like, I don't know. I can kind of see that. I can kind of see that they're rushing the book a bit. I mean, it's definitely better than that crappy movie for sure, but I still feel like I don't connect as much with the bears and the characters or not. And I don't know, the whole movie does seem a bit typical of a young adult novel. It kind of feels that way a bit. And the stuff that they're doing with the parallel universe, which is essentially our universe, like from what I understand, if I read this right from my brother's reviews, this stuff was not even in the first book, that they're integrating stuff from the second book. I just don't care about it. Every time they cut back to it, I'm like, I don't care about this storyline at all. I'd rather they just focus on Lyra's storyline and develop those characters more. And rather than waste time with the dude with the snake trying to, fuck with a woman who's mentally disabled and her son. The whole thing when the son, like, walked off at the end of the episode, not going to his mother, that was really cliche. I was like, yeah, it's typical of shows to have to do something like this. So, I don't know. I'm enjoying it. I'm going to keep watching it. If there's a season 2, I'll keep watching it, but it's not like I think I'm going to put this in the top tier of shows. This is, to me, it's like another averagely good show. Anywho, let me get to the last show I'm going to cover, which is Vikings, which I just finished watching the newest episode of Vikings, and I'm shaping up to like this season. I think it's at first I was really disappointed that they completely left the England storyline behind, because that was my favorite storyline of the show. I'm actually less interested in the Vikings fighting amongst each other, but they're making it be really interesting. Now, the whole thing with that one bald king, I can't remember his name, and his whole thing, I mean, he's been acting crazy this whole time, but the whole thing about him deciding that because he had Bjorn, he killed a bunch of Bjorn's men. He could have killed Bjorn himself, and he had Bjorn surrounded, and then all of a sudden he's saying, Bjorn, I think you should be king of whole Norway. Now, he describes it as the first king of Norway. Now, I thought that Ragnar was the king of Norway. I could have sworn, it's been years since I've seen season 2, but I could have sworn they specifically said that he was going to, because there was this other king dude in season 2 that tried to kill Ragnar. Ragnar ended up killing him. I thought he was the king of Norway, and Ragnar took over as king of Norway, and I thought he was the king of Norway this whole time. I thought that's why Finehair tried to kill Ragnar, because he wanted to be the king of Norway. But now they're talking like there has never been a king of Norway. So I don't know. I guess people who are more historians and more familiar with the history would probably think I'm dumb or whatever. But I don't know. It's been a while since I've seen the show, so I don't know. But okay, whatever. They're going to say there's never been a king of Norway, fine. And they're going to make Bjorn the first king of Norway. It just seems really weird. I think, if I remember history correctly, I think Finehair becomes the first king of Norway. I don't know. I know people who are more familiar with this think I'm sound dumb or whatever, but I don't know. It's not a topic I'm extremely interested in, and it's been a while since I've seen it. Anyway, Jermaine in the chat says, yeah, I agree on episode 2 this season, so oddly paced, just speed ran through both plots. Yeah, I think that's definitely the case. So anyway, I am starting to like the Russ Viking storyline. I actually think it took a totally different direction. I thought Ivar was just going to team up with the asshole dude to try to take over Scandinavia, but apparently, like, he was pissed off with him because he said, "You are not a god," and so now he's trying to strike a deal with his brother who's got the thing on his mouth. And I think that makes the storyline much more interesting. So I'm really curious to see how they go. And poor Hishfricht, or however you pronounce it. I'm very horrible at pronouncing names. I'm sorry, but he, I don't know. I feel like obviously they didn't have AA back and whenever this is taking place, so you can kind of understand that they weren't really. And plus, he has mental issues, not just alcoholism. And I think it's kind of obvious that they're not prepared to deal with that sort of thing. And then they just exile him, which is pretty harsh. I don't think they're not being very understanding of what he's going through, but it's probably very historically accurate to the time. Speaking of historically accurate of the time, but not things I really appreciate seeing, is a bunch of children getting murdered by bandits. I understand, again, that's probably very historically accurate to the timepiece they're in, but it's not very enjoyable to watch in my free time. It's very disturbing. I mean, some people may see that as more sort of brave of the show, that's willing to disturb people in order to stay true to history and the spirit of how things would have happened, but which is true. But I still don't like seeing it. Especially they killed Bjorn's son for no reason. Like, he was just because he was too dumb to stay in hiding, which he's a kid, of course. But it was still it was really sad. So I don't know, they're always killing off children, but again, it's historically accurate, I'm sure. But still, really draining to watch. But anyway, yeah. So I'm starting to like the show. I think this season's turning out to be one of the better seasons of the show. But we're only 4 episodes in, because I know there's a lot of previous seasons, particularly the first half of season 4 was just filler after filler. It was so slow. I think season 3 was kind of that way too, and here it's better paced, I think, which is what I liked about last season as well. I know a lot of people didn't like the newer seasons because Ragnar's not in it anymore, but I still enjoy it. So I can't wait to see what they do with this next week. Anyway, that is me. That's all I got to say. Almost reaching the 30-minute mark, so time for me to skedaddle. Thank you guys so much for sticking with me and watching this. And as I alluded to earlier, I will be going out and seeing Rise of Skywalker tonight. So sometime probably really late night, maybe after midnight my time, I'll come on and give my review. I might do spoiler free for the first half and then spoilers for the second half. But because I won't be able to do a spoiler free and a spoiler review. I just can't be bothered doing those. So I'll probably do them both in the same review. So if you're going to join me live, just be wary of that, that you don't jump into the spoiler part if you haven't seen it, if you don't want to be spoiled. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you next time.